I received an email from one of our subscribers who is asking for me to do an episode about effective storytelling in product management. So I decided this would be a great opportunity to answer that call and to give you some more information. If you're not careful, product management can really get, well, boring. I mean, how many times do we see slide deck after slide deck and the details start to blur together and the audience starts to disengage and people start to disagree? It's a nightmare. If you're throwing stats, facts, and bullets at your audience without constructing the right narrative, your point is not getting across. Your audience will be quick to tune out, and even if they do listen, they'll struggle to turn the information you give them into something memorable and useful. So, how do you change this? How do you overcome this? Well, this is what's called product storytelling. So, it's a great way to add context and excitement to any product document or presentation. By sharing data, insights, and strategies in a story driven way, a narrative, product managers can get more done with more impactful communication because it just makes sense. Storytelling's been around since the beginning of time. It's the idea that you tell your insights narratively in the context of what it means. For example, if you're sharing some numbers on adoption for a new feature, you might be tempted to throw up your percentages on a slide and move on. If you want to tell a story, you'd instead frame the percentages around their relationship to the user's journey, painting a picture of action, not just a spreadsheet full of information. Storytelling like this is a fantastic way to get more people to listen. If you're being more interesting, people have a better reason to stay tuned, even if they didn't mean to tune out. It also simplifies complex data into something more relatable. User personas and user journeys are great storytelling techniques that summarize millions of data points into a single view centered around a person and a story. Sharing this data within its context can also build trust and credibility, both for yourself and for the information you're sharing. If your audience knows the context, it'll be easier for them to evaluate the credibility. Having this improve understanding of the data can improve collaboration and understanding for yourself and your teams. For example, think about a meeting where you're set to go over your roadmap for the upcoming quarter. Sure, you could show the roadmap, pick it apart feature by feature, or what if you built a narrative that demonstrated the impact of the roadmap? Instead of starting with the full view, you can start with the pain point behind your number one item. Have you ever been frustrated when you couldn't do this? That's telling a story, right? Share it's at the top of your roadmap. Then you can work your way down, adding more narrative and revealing more of the roadmap as you go. I think that if you execute in this fashion, you're going to find that when you put it into context and start with the problem you're trying to solve and building from there, it's going to help you really tell a solid story. As you can guess, I love storytelling. I just love the use of doing it. Even with data, without data, it doesn't matter. Using a story to share statistics makes it far more memorable. It also brings insights to the important things. Right up with the numbers. Using both of these kinds of storytelling helps to get buy-in on projects and initiatives by creating clarity on the purpose and mission of the pitch. Storytelling can also be a great way to reflect on a process, lesson, or mistake. One of my personal favorite ways to use storytelling is sharing new ideas or features. By putting my idea in the context of the problem and giving it a personality, I'm communicating the direct impact the product will have. It establishes empathy without bias and customer centricity from the very start. So storytelling isn't an all the time thing, though. That's important to know. It's not a one-size-fits-all silver bullet solution. Imagine if your sales team only shared the metrics for the month of what would happen if, here, let's put it this way. What would happen if your sales team shared their metrics for the month in a story? Sometimes being punchy and to the point can be more effective in your narrative. Make sure you're remembering your audience and goal when choosing storytelling over other forms of communication. When I find that stakeholders or managers are becoming less engaged, this is when I really like to dig into storytelling. It's one of my favorite ways to get stakeholders re-engaged. Usually, those around you are also interested in creating the best outcomes for the business and the customer possible. So if you start with a story that reflects impact, you'll find common ground and motivation early. By building this shared narrative, it's easier to collaborate with others. You'll be sitting in the same context as your teammates, and you can work in the same world by focusing on outcome and impact instead of only focusing on output and velocity or story points. Using storytelling, you're forcing a more holistic view of the problem you're facing, and you're forcing others to look at things from a different point of view, the point of view of the customer, without bias. And both of these can help reframe the conversation to build more constructive outcomes and have a higher impact. I've had people confront me though, and they say, but Lee, I'm not an expert storyteller. I'm not as good at this like you are. It's not really that difficult. When telling a story, the first step is to make sure you know your audience. You probably don't want to tap into deep emotions if you're making a 60-second pitch to an investment board, but you also don't want to give a super upbeat, exciting narrative about something that might be sensitive to others. Know what kinds of stories your audience is looking for and tailor your strategy accordingly. Storytelling is not synonymous with complexity. Your story should use the least amount of detail possible to convey the right context, emotions, and actions. Use the right information at the right time. No more, no less. And when done correctly, using emotions in a story can help to further connections with the audience. When you understand your audience's motives, you can leverage that in a story. Highlight the pain points they can relate to, that they have concern for, and then focus on what they feel is relevant in their world. If you could do that, you're really going to turn things around. Storytelling doesn't end after a presentation. When answering questions, reference the story. Describe hypotheticals, impact, outcomes. Use lots of active listening to find the purpose of the question quickly so you can relate it to your own narrative. Storytelling is a powerful tool when used correctly. It can create breakthroughs in communication with your team and your stakeholders. I've even seen storytelling improve quality and depth of conversations. But I've also seen it speed up conversations as well. The connection and empathy a good story creates drives further innovation and collaboration within a team and across all your stakeholders. I hope this was helpful to you. That's going to do it for this one. If you have a topic you want us to talk about, how about learn more at agiledad.com? That's the place. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.